Hello again, lovely people. Look at the lovely surprise that I received in the mail today. Yes, this is the PCB boards that I ordered from PCBWay. I should actually say that they sponsored this video. Many thanks to them. So I reached out to them in inquiring about producing boards for her, and then they saw my videos on our YouTube channel and offered to sponsor this. So thank you very much. It goes to PCBWay. But yes, I'm very anxious to open this up, and of course I wanted to do the unboxing live. Well, not live, but on camera, so let's get this baby open. This is so exciting, guys. I've never had boards made before. I mean, this is a generally new hobby to me, as most of you know, so this is looking pretty cool already. And yes, I ordered purple ones, which is pretty cool about PCBWay. I did not see on the other PCB board manufacturers that they even offered purple. Of course, that wasn't the reason why I decided to go with them. They had great customer service too, on top of what looks like amazingly great quality boards as well. There we go, guys. Sorry for that glare. I'll try and stay out of that, but I really want to show this logo, so let me try and focus a little better here. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Alright, so now what we can do is we can get out our box of JST connectors, put one of these together and get it wired up. But before I do that, I want to show you all the process that I went through to make this. Again, as most of you know, I am a novice at this, so I'm pretty proud of this, and once again, with complete appreciation, big thank you to PCBWay and their customer service. Very cool. Alright, so let's hop over to the computer so I can show you how I put this together and shipped it off to them for production.
Yeah, guys, PCBWay was the way to go, literally. It really was super simple, super easy. I'm so happy with the quality. Their prices are great. The shipping is so fast. I was so impressed. I mean, I am in the U.S., as most of you know, and they're in China, and within, a week, maybe 6 days, it was at my door. That's pretty amazing. So it's pretty simple to do. They have most of the defaults all set for you already. Again, I am such a novice. This is my absolute first time ever doing this. And they offer all of those services too, like CNC and 3D printing even and such. So I may look into that one day, but all I had to do is enter my length and width here, choose how many that I wanted, and basically, of course, when I saw purple, I had to choose that as well. Other than that, that was it. I took all of the defaults. But yeah, obviously it lets you set the thickness of the board, how many layers, the surface finish, all of this stuff that I don't know enough about to tell you about, but that's another beauty of PCBWay. Once your order is in, you get to follow it step by step through the process. You can ask the engineers questions. They'll review your Gerber files before they'll send it to production to look for obvious errors and such. And then when it's in production, you can follow it along the way. When it ships, you follow it along the way. They give you previews of it, all that fun stuff. So great website, too, to be quite honest with you, speaking as a web developer. So yeah, check them out, please. My Gerber files will be on their site. They have a community where you can download available Gerber files, and I've put the Nova robot site files up there. So I will link to that on the website and such. So in here, you can find Nova. This is the current version, which is 5.1. But as you have seen in this video, I am about ready to put 5.2 up here and place another order with PCBWay myself. So yeah, I will link to this on our website so that you guys can order easy. So before we get started on just reviewing the schematics and the PCB layout, I just wanted to announce that I have put together a little website for Nova, mostly to save me from having to update instructables and GitHub, and of course I'll continue to update GitHub. That's where all the files will live. But I had 4 or 5 things going, and it was just getting too much. YouTube will long exist, of course, as will GitHub and this website. The rest, I'm probably not going to maintain from there. The problem is the version changes, right? With Thingiverse, I've been putting now version 2 and 3, SM2 and SM3 parts up there, and it's confusing people. So, yeah, that all being said, this is going to be our main source of information aside from YouTube and GitHub, which are both linked here. For example, the video page is basically my YouTube feed with all of my YouTube videos right here. So, okay. And then, yes, I've made it a member site. So if you guys want to sign up and join, especially those of you that are actually building this, you'll have your access to your own little image gallery. And then we're going to have one common image gallery where I would love to see you guys post pictures of and videos. You can link videos to this as well of your builds. That would be so awesome. And then, of course, I put all the instructions here, which right now these are outdated. They come from the Instructables page that I built. So I will come in here and update all these over the coming week or two. And changelog I've started to maintain now, where it'll keep track. Ooh, I don't like that scroll. We'll have to fix that. Call the web developer, please. So it'll show you whatever version you're on or building. It'll tell you exactly pretty much what I've changed in the next version, so you can decide for yourself if it's worth upgrading or not. Yeah, that scroll really bothers me. Okay, so yes, that being said, also, so on the updates page here is probably the best page. I'm going to let you subscribe so that you'll get notification when I add new updates to this page. That feature's coming soon, because here I announced when my boards arrived, and then this is where I wanted to pause this right here while we go look at the schematic and PCB layout, because this is my next version that I've already worked on and I think I already have perfected, and we might be done and ready to go. I know that makes a lot of you go, come on, man, but I'm sorry. This is how we go in research and development. You guys are building this right along with me, as you know. Now, of course, you don't have to upgrade, really. I mean, while we have this up, let me go over the changes really quick. Basically, I added the voltage regulator to this circuit now, so you can see the resistors are here, and then there's another terminal, actually this terminal, for the battery. So those were added. And then I took our little 6.8 volt terminal block that takes the power in from the main buck converter, converts it down to 6.8. Rather than have that a separate little terminal block that we have to DIY, I just figured I would throw those 3 terminal blocks on here, and we'll just feed the 6.8 into here. Now, that's why I kept this separate, and it is far enough away from this circuit that the 6.8 doesn't connect to this at all. It's a separate voltage. The ground is shared, but the voltage obviously is not, because this board is 5 volts. Okay, and then I added a couple of little dip switches here to turn on and off. This was one issue that I was having. I kept having to remove my Nano to program it and scratching my head why I'm not using the serial terminals on this anymore since we got rid of the OLD screen. And then, yeah, with a little discussion with one of you on my comments, we figured out that it was the fact that I had the reset switch tied to a digital pin, so that I can reboot the Nano in software, and that actually was causing the problem. So I had to throw a little on-off switch on that, which I've tested already, works great. And then I did include a JST for the TXRX serial lines for future expansion. They're not used right now, but I also threw in a dip switch for that as well. So now there'll be no need to remove the Nano. Yes, it may be just as much of a pain in the butt to come in here and flip that switch, but at least it's there. I think I'll use the switch rather than popping the Nano in and out. Okay, so yeah, aside from that, those are the major changes. I added a couple of extra 5 volt and 3 volt outputs, as well as any other pins that may be important in the future. I didn't pin out every pin to a JST, but I think the only thing that's left to work on really, and we talked about this in the Discord server, is this set, first of all. So the battery is to A0 is really no longer needed now that I've put the voltage regulator on this board. So you'll just wire the battery into this and you're done. So that's kind of defunct. And then the amperage monitor, I was thinking of just scrapping altogether because I haven't used it in the past month or two, to be honest with you. The past 2 or 3 times I've rewired Nova, and nor have I had any spastic movements of the servos where I've had that problem where they lock up. Now, somebody made the point in Discord that, is there any extreme case where that could still happen? And the simple answer to that is yes. I think it would mostly come down to software, but I suppose you could rewire something wrong to cause your motors to go nuts too. I'm not sure, but the answer is yes. So we decided it's probably best to keep it. But as with most of the hardware and sensors and such on this board, they're kind of optional because I always try and put those active switches at the top of my code where you could disable anything pretty easily. So it's really optional, the amp monitor. So we will leave this JST here. It will stay labeled amp, but I'm going to drop battery, and we don't have a single JST terminal, so I'm not sure where to put the pin. That's the only thing that I'm scratching my head again about. Any suggestions, let me know. And then these 2 banks here are no longer full volume or speaker because we now have the MP3. So I'm probably going to name them auxiliary the way I did this. And actually, I should have labeled out the pins here like I did here on the Nano, where I said analogs 6 and 7, and then analog 0, 1, 2. I'm going to do the same to these 3 auxiliary banks. So that's it, guys. And then the wiring, I think this is, I'm not an electrical engineer. Again, this is the first time I've ever done something like this, but I figured this diagram would be a great way to display it. So basically what I did is I took the connectors and JSTs in kind of groups and just pulled them off the board. And then I labeled them with the pin numbers that they connect to on the board. And then the outside of the wiring are the pins for the device. Okay, the color of the wire is all up to you. I just tried to be consistent with them, mostly using the red, black, yellow, and gray because, as you've seen in previous videos, that's what I'm using on most of my JSTs because I bought pre-wired JST connectors. But anyhow, the only thing I want to point out here is pay close attention that you may start wondering why some of these, like if we look up here at this set, some of them don't have positive and negative terminals, right? Well, that's because all of these go to the head, all 4 of these JST connectors. So I just carry the voltage with one of the connectors, and you can see I've labeled it that this voltage actually feeds the RGB, the OLED, and the ultrasonic sensors. And then we do the same here with the switch panel that feeds voltage to most of the other devices. So if we scroll down a bit here, the PIR sensor, the PS2 sensor control, they don't have power because they feed it off of the panel. So just that as a side note. Otherwise, I think you should be able to follow this and build and wire your JST connectors even for version 5.1. Even though this is my coming 5.2 version, none of these JST wiring has changed. And then obviously the ones that are grayed out are not active. They're all spares for the future. And then lastly, yes, here's the 6.8 volt that comes in to this terminal block, and then we go out to the voltmeter and out to the motors. I was almost thinking we can almost drop this and then leave it up to you in your wiring to top off the voltmeter, but it's kind of cool to be like that. We had room for it, so we're good to go. And then here's the battery coming in, which feeds the voltage divider. All right, guys, so yeah, there we go. So let's take a look at the schematic really quick. I won't bother to go over it all now since I just did there, but this is the schematic for 5.2, not the current board that we are printing. I am not going to talk about software because, again, this is the first time that I've ever done this, so I've tried probably a dozen applications, and I've yet to find my favorite. Mostly it comes down to, for me anyway, 2 things. Selecting the components. If the library in the software has a great selection of components, easy to find, super, go for it. Because I've found that a lot of them don't, or at least not consistent components, and that's kind of what happened to me here. I do have 2 different types of JST connectors, which I'll show when we solder this up. So that kind of bothered me about this software. But that being said, real quick, here is the 6.8 volt circuit that I added. And then there's the extra 5 volt, extra 3 volt. Here's the voltage divider that I added. And then the 2 tip switches. And then scattered up throughout here are a few auxiliary terminals. So that's the schematic. And then this is the other benefit, or the deciding factor on software, in my opinion, would be how it handles helping you create these PCBs, especially if you're a newbie like me. So this software had auto root. I think most of them do. It did a pretty dang good job of it. So that I give it kudos for. I didn't have to mess with this much. A couple of wires I moved. It actually routed this one like around my drill hole, which left me puzzled. So I went ahead and moved it. Works out much better than that. But for the most part, it got it pretty nice. So here we're looking at the top layer. What I wanted to show you guys here is a couple of things. And here is the bottom layer. Let me hide the top first, though, because this now is what I came up with the help of the software for the ground plane and / ground pour. So for those of you who don't know, and as of a week ago, I had no clue either. Again, thanks to the comments, you guys helped me out with this. It essentially uses up any of the spare space on your board and fills it with copper and connects all that to all of your grounds. So all of the blue area you're looking at right now is ground. It helps a lot with keeping interference away and good solid connections, etc. So, and then on the 6.8 circuit, I beefed up the tracks a lot because this will be a little higher amperage than the rest of the 5 volt board. And then I also beefed up all of the other tracks just a little bit from what they were in the previous version. Okay, so if we turn our top layer back on here, and then finally our silkscreen layer, the only thing I did here was I realized on my previous board I didn't put the logo and all that in silkscreen. I actually did it in copper, I guess. So as you can see it on the board, but it's not silkscreened on. So I've changed that. So next time I print this, that'll be nice, bold, and beautiful, and we'll be able to see the version number and the date. And then, of course, now I added the website and my name, which I'm sure none of you mind. But if you do, feel free to go ahead and tear it off there and print it. I mean, this is not even an official open source quote-unquote project, guys, because I don't even put the disclaimer or any of that stuff in the headers of my code. Again, as those of you who've been following along all the time, this project, didn't start out to be hey, let me share this with the world kind of thing. I think I just posted a video and a few people were pretty excited about it, and I went from there. So I was already into it before this all started. Anyhow, that'll wrap this up, guys. So yes, software I can't help you much with, but big shout out to PCBWay again, guys. I can't stress enough that super helpful customer service, super fast shipping and production and delivery. It was to me in less than a week. So definitely check them out, PCBWay.com.
All right, guys, let's try and solder up one of these boards. So, first of all, you can see I have all the parts we need laid out already. These two boards came from the DIY boards, which I've now took out of Nova. And the MP3 unit, these already have pin headers attached, soldered on. And then these female headers are going to go into the board. Okay, I'm not here to teach you guys how to solder because I'm an amateur myself, but the best way to solder any kind of board on that has pins like that is to put the headers on the device itself, and the Teensy is a perfect example of that because we actually have 3 sets of headers. So that keeps them all nice and straight, nice and level. Then you just pop it into the board like that and solder it from the other side. So I've pre-done that with the 3 boards that we're going to be soldering on there. Then we have a little screw terminal. Another amateur mistake. There's a little glare on this board. Sorry about that. In selecting my hardware to place these items in the software, as I showed in the video previous to this segment, I you know, I chose the wrong one, I guess, because these pins just slightly are too tight together. So you can see that left one is bent a tiny bit, so I had to bend a little bit to get in there. Actually goes in this orientation, sorry. So yeah, my specking of the parts wasn't precise. You can also see that the 3-prong JST connectors are a slimmer version, but that doesn't really matter because the holes and the spacing is still the same. It's really just the silkscreen outline. So something I may fix in the next release, but as you saw, I didn't yet. I just went ahead and added a bit of board here and a few more components and moved a few JST connectors around, but I did not swap out the hardware. I probably won't, because I'm sure there's a more heavy-duty screw terminal than this, which is probably what this is speccing, and that might be better to use than these anyway. But this is all I have on hand, so that's what I'm going to go with right now. Okay, so we have that. And then we have all of our JSTs. So there's one 5-pin, 6 4-pin, 5 3-pin, and then what do we have here? 11 2-pin. And that's it. That's all we need to solder up this version 5.1 of the board. And then a little bit of solder, of course, just solder and iron. Tweezers always help. And then I like to use these blocks for a lot of things, as you've probably already seen in my video. So, again, I'm not here to teach soldering. Everybody has their own preference of doing things. I have heard in numerous videos and instructional stuff that it's best to start with the lowest components, which makes perfect sense when you're soldering, but honestly, when you're soldering on the other side, all the pins are the same in this case, so I don't really think that matters. What I'm going to do is start with all the same height items, which in this case would be all of the JSTs, get all of them in there, then I'm going to put a piece of tape over it to hold them in place and flip this whole thing over and just put it straight down on my workstation here, and then go ahead and solder them all. That should work great for those, and then these will be easy enough to hold in place while I solder them. Okay, so yeah, we'll probably time lapse through this. I'm going to go ahead and add all the JSTs to this now, and then go ahead and flip it, solder it up, and then we will do the boards. Now, orientation is important. Where you see these 2 cutouts in the connector is where let me see if I have a wire here to show you. So that's where these 2 indents go, or I should say protrusions, right? So I'm considering that the front of the connector. So in my case, all of these cutouts are going to face the outsides of the board. And actually you can see it in the silk screen. There's a little notch on each one of the silk screen symbols. All right. So anyway, that being said, let me go ahead and install these. Alright guys, we are donezo. So, here we go. She's ready to go. Now we can reinstall her. So I got one JST that's a little crooked. I'll fix that pretty easily. Actually, I'll just show you guys. It really just takes heating it and twisting it a bit, so I'll do that off camera. Otherwise, they all look pretty good, right? And now that these devices have their pin headers plugged in, yes, I can just unplug them. Alright, so there we go. We're ready to roll, kids. So, yes, I'm going to do a short series of videos now going forward. We're going to take this board and install it in the next video and wire up all the JSTs, at which point I'll discuss each one of them, because yes, the wiring is anything but conventional. I did create a pretty cool diagram for the next version, 5.2, that could be used also for wiring up this version, so I'll show that. Actually, I showed it in the previous segment, so it's also going to be on the website as well as GitHub as usual. Alright guys, so yeah, I can't wait for the next version already, to be honest with you, but we're going to hold off a while just to make sure it's pretty tight. And if I can get any of you guys who really know what you're doing to take a look at my latest design with the ground pour and all that and tell me it can't do much better, then we'll print it. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. See you all real soon.